Stockings are a great holiday project, and this is one of my favorites, a classic red stocking like the ones we had growing up. Now, you don't have to be a pro to crochet this stocking, but a basic understanding of crocheting in rounds is really helpful. You'll learn how basic increases that are cleverly placed can create a great shape for a stocking, and you'll also get to see a really cool method of working a heel. The step-by-step tutorial is coming up. Now, there are quite a few steps to this project, so the first thing you'll want to do is get access to the pattern. Check the description below for a link to where you can view the pattern online for free, or if you'd prefer to have a copy in hand and you want to get the PDF, I'll have a link to where you can buy that from my shop as well. Okay, this one starts at the toe and is worked upwards. With your main color, make a magic ring with 8 half double crochet stitches. When you have your first 2 chains made, it's safe to pull the ring off of your fingers, but make sure you keep the tail in this position so you can work over it. When I'm working a magic ring, I typically will hold it in my hands kind of like this as I finish it up. When you have your 8 half double crochet, pull the tail to draw it up. So that's all there is to the first round. To move on to the next round, you won't join with a slip stitch. Instead, we're going to continue working in a spiral. So make a half double crochet in your first stitch. Then place a marker there so you know that this stitch is the first stitch of the round, and make another half double crochet in the same stitch. So for this round, the repeat's really simple. You'll make 2 half double crochets in every stitch. So at the end of round number 2, you should have 16 stitches, and for round 3, remove the stitch marker and make a half double crochet there. Then replace the stitch marker, and by the way, you'll do this for every single round so you can keep track of the beginning. Then you'll increase in the next stitch. In other words, you'll make 2 half double crochets in the next stitch. And the repeat for this round is pretty simple. You'll make 1 half double crochet in the next stitch, followed by an increase in the next, so 2 half double crochets in that next stitch. With this increasing every other round, at the end of round number 3, you'll have a total of 24 stitches, and the next couple of rounds follow the same trend. The only difference there is you'll add another stitch in between the increases for each round. So for round 3, we're putting 1 stitch in between the increases. For rounds 4, you'll put 2, and for rounds 5, you'll put 3 stitches in between those increases. So go ahead and refer to the pattern for the instructions to finish rounds 3, 4, and 5. So again, at the end of round 5, you should have 3 stitches in between your increases, and you'll have a total of 40 stitches for that round. And that's all the increasing we'll do for now. Rounds 6 through 13 all have the same simple repeat. You'll make 1 half double crochet in every stitch. Now don't forget to replace your stitch marker in the first stitch at the start of every new round so you know where you are within the pattern. So with that repeat, we've made it through the toe. Now in order for it to flare out a bit at the bottom but not at the top, we need to make a few increases, but just on the bottom part of the stocking. We'll do that in round 14. So at this point, we've crocheted through rounds 13, and this is what your stocking looks like at this point. For those increases we talked about, well, first we'll make 1 half double crochet in the next 19 stitches. This is for round 14. And when we're not increasing here, these stitches are going to be at the top part of the stocking. When you get through that, then we'll add those increases. So make 2 half double crochets in the next stitch, or that 20th stitch, followed by 1 half double crochet in the next 4 stitches. And that's the repeat. Increase, 1 half double crochet in the next 4, increase, 1 half double crochet in the next 4, and you'll repeat that to the end of the round. When you do, you should end with 2 half double crochets in the last stitch and a total of 45 stitches. Now the next 2 rounds, 15 and 16, have the same simple repeat. Once again, we're just making 1 half double crochet in every stitch. But then we're going to increase a little bit more. So when you finish round 16, refer back to the pattern for instructions on round 17. It's going to follow the same trend as round 14. It's another increase round, but there's a little difference in the stitch count in between the increases and that initial first bit of half double crochets at the beginning of the round. And to see that visually, here's what your stocking will look like at the end of 17. If you look back a few rounds to round 14, you'll see 4 stitches in between those increases. And for round 17, the last one I've crocheted here, you'll see 5 stitches in between those increases. With these 2 little increases, when you lay it flat, it should flare out just a little bit at the bottom. Okay, now we have a real simple repeat for rounds 18 through 22. Just 1 half double crochet in every stitch. When you finish that, we'll pick up with the heel. When you've crocheted all the way through rounds 22, this is what your stocking will look like. Next, we're going to pick up on the heel, which are worked in rows rather than rounds. The first thing you'll want to do is keep your stitch marker here. We're not going to do anything with it for the heel, but we will come back to it later. So to start the first row of the heel, you'll chain 1 and turn your work. So ideally you want to have the stocking laid out like this, so the inside of the stocking is facing you and you can work in this direction. First, we'll make a decrease and we'll do the half double crochet 2 together. Because the chain 1 isn't counting as a stitch, we'll yarn over and insert the hook in the same stitch, and yarn over and insert the hook in the next stitch, and yarn over and pull through all the loops on your hook. Then go ahead and make 1 half double crochet in the next 21 stitches. When you do that, it'll get you through almost half the stitches, and we'll finish the row with another half double crochet 2 together decrease. Now if you want to do a quick stitch count here, you should have a total of 23 stitches at the end of this row. Then you'll chain 1 and turn to start row 2. You'll half double crochet 2 together at the beginning, just like before. Then make 1 half double crochet in each stitch until you get to the last 2. Then half double crochet 2 together over the last 2 stitches. Chain 1, turn, and repeat. Everything you just did for row 2, you'll also do for rows 3 through 8. When you finish that repeat, it'll look something like this. And that's half of the heel. You should have a total of 9 stitches at the end of round 8. And the next thing we need to do is basically reverse what we just did in the last steps, so the final shape looks more like an hourglass. So to do that, for rounds 9 through 16, we have the same repeat. You'll chain 1 and turn, and make 2 half double crochets in the first stitch, then make 1 half double crochet in each stitch to the last, and make 2 half double crochets in the last stitch. This will increase your stitch count by 2 for every row. You should have 25 stitches for row 16, and it should look something like this. Then you can fasten off, leaving a nice long tail. Thread the tail on a yarn needle, and with the stocking laying flat like this and the toe facing towards you, fold the top half of the heel downward. This will make sure the seam that we're about to create is on the inside of the stocking. So align the 2 points together so it's even and sew up the side. I'm using a whip stitch here, but you can use whatever seaming method you prefer. Now, it's not a bad idea to flip it right side out to check the seam and make sure you're happy with the look of it. You can always do a little bit of tweaking with your seaming if it looks a little bit wonky or weird. And when you're happy with it, I'm just running the tail under the heel, under this row of stitches, so I don't have to fasten off and create another end to weave in. So just run that through and seam up the opposite side. With the same color yarn, fasten on in your marked stitch, chain 1, and half double crochet in the same stitch. That chain 1 is not counting as a stitch. And then make 1 half double crochet in the next 24 stitches. So that'll get you to the heel stitches. What you'll do next is find the first heel stitch. It's in that group of 2, that increase there. Find the first one and half double crochet there. Then continue with 1 half double crochet in the next 24 stitches. And that should get you to the end of the round. When you're done, you should have 50 stitches total. Like the other rounds in this project, we'll continue to work in a spiral, so don't join here. Instead, remove the marker and make a half double crochet there for the first stitch of round 2. Now for another long repeat, rounds 2 through 9, make 1 half double crochet in every stitch. When you're finished with that repeat, it'll look like this. Now let's go ahead and fix up these little gaps on both sides where the heel junction is. You should have a tail on each side, and just use the tail and a yarn needle to tidy it up. Now we just have one more increasing round before another long repeat. This is round 10. You'll remove the marker and make a half double crochet in the first stitch, and also in the next 3 stitches. Followed by your increase, or 2 half double crochets in the next. Now the repeat for this one is 1 half double crochet in the next 4 stitches, followed by 2 half double crochets in the next. Like our other increase rounds, if you've done everything correctly, you should end with 2 half double crochets in the last stitch, and you'll have a total of 60 stitches at the end of round 10. Now for the long repeat I promised, rounds 11 through 30 are worked the same. You'll make 1 half double crochet in every stitch. And that'll be the length of the stocking. Go ahead and remove the marker and slip stitch in the marked stitch to sort of correct the jog. You won't really see it because the band's going to fold down over it, but it doesn't hurt to tidy it up a little bit. Next up, with the larger of the 2 hooks and the band yarn, fasten on in the stitch with your last slip stitch, and you'll half double crochet in the same stitch. Then make 1 half double crochet in each remaining stitch. Anytime I can, I like to try to work over some tails so I don't have to weave them in later, so you'll see me doing that here. And just a little forewarning, this yarn is so fuzzy, it's really hard to see your stitches as you're working them. It's really easy on this first round because you're working in the smooth yarn stitches, but after this round, you'll really have to feel your way through it. When you make it to the end of the round, you're not going to join, you'll continue working in a spiral, and you'll do so with 1 half double crochet in every stitch. Now we're really going to not keep track of our total number of rounds at this point because it's really hard to count with this yarn. So you can use the stitch marker at the beginning if you'd like, or you can leave it off if you find that it's not very helpful. The idea is to continue with this repeat, 1 half double crochet in every stitch, working in a spiral, until your band measures about 5.5 inches from where you joined this new yarn. There is a little bit of a learning curve with this yarn. If you've worked with fuzzy yarn before, you're fine, you'll be able to work through this. If this is brand new and you've never worked with this type of yarn before, just know you're not the only one who struggles working with it. It's very fuzzy and it's very difficult to see the stitches, and that's okay. It's totally worth it. Its best quality is also its worst quality. And what I mean by that is if you make a mistake, which you probably will, and I'm sure I have too, you can't see them because it's fuzzy enough that it really does hide those mistakes. However, if you're having a really tough time with this yarn and it's ruining the project for you and you don't want to work with it, feel free to substitute with another worsted weight yarn, maybe the same brand that you used for your main color yarn. If you do that though, make sure you use the same hook size that you used for your stocking, the smaller of the two. And this is what it'll look like when you have the length of the band crocheted. It's a little bit wider, which is exactly what we want, so it'll fold down nicely, and we can go ahead and fasten off. Before we do that though, make a single crochet in the next stitch. I have the marker here just to help you see that it's at the end of the round. And then slip stitch in the stitch after that. This will sort of graduate it down so the jog is corrected and it looks a little cleaner. Of course, the last thing to do is weave in the ends. Now, don't forget to check the description below for a link to the free pattern where you can see it online, as well as a link to the PDF if you choose to buy that if you want to print a copy or save it for later. And that's it for now, friend. I hope you've enjoyed making this holiday project and will continue to enjoy them for many more years. I appreciate all of you who are watching and liking my tutorials. That helps me out in tremendous ways. Also, if you haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so if you're into this sort of thing. And I'll see you in the next one.